I'm Malinda Alahakoon, and I'm doing this session for the second time, I guess, two times in a row. Uh, and today, people, I'm going to talk about, in the last year, I remember I was talking about how to build a content creation business. This time, I'm going to talk about how to integrate AI, but I'm going to give you a little brush up on how to create a content creation business too, because that's important because AI fit into a certain step in this whole process. So let's dig in. So the first thing, when we are talking about content creation business, last time when I was talking about content creation business, but the word business didn't actually go with content creation a lot because most of the content creation people who were doing content creation were basically hobbyists. So they didn't actually look into the business aspect. Sometimes they made money, but they didn't treat it like a business. But now the things are a lot different. Lots of you guys, I'm pretty sure that when you are watching this, lots of you guys are treating your content creation as a business. So we have multiple avenues, of course. Many of you guys are probably creating YouTube videos, and you may have websites, and you may have a huge audience around Instagram, TikTok. Lots of platforms are there. Threads are also there. So I'm going to give you a little overview about how to build your content creation career as a business. Then we'll try to understand how to integrate artificial intelligence into the mix. So here we go. So this is a little recap from my last session from last year, but still it's important, still it's relevant. So I'm going to quickly go through these stuff too. So the first step, actually I got these ideas from a couple of YouTube videos. I strongly recommend you to follow Ali Abdal, a great creator. So this is actually an idea I got from Ali Abdal, but super important for all sorts of content creators. So first stage would be get going. So in this stage, you should probably pay attention to upload your first video and to repeat that till you upload the 100th video maybe. 100 is a pretty big number, I understand. In some cases, 100 is a small number. Like let's say you're uploading TikTok videos, 100 is a small number. But if you're uploading YouTube videos and if you're uploading 10 minutes, maybe 25 minutes, 30 minutes video, 100 is a big number. You can tweak this number, but in this stage, you shouldn't worry about your video quality, your audio quality a lot. If you have the baseline audio quality, baseline video quality, it's good enough. Your smartphone is more than good enough for the video quality, but the audio is little troublesome. Sometimes you have to invest little on microphones and stuff. But in this stage, use your available equipment, upload the first video, repeat the process, and try all the different stuff. Then you can go to the next stage. The next stage, before you go to the next stage, before you like step into the next stage, you should ask this question. So you want to do this casually, or you are serious about building a content creation business? So if you want to do this casually, stay in the get going stage, like this stage. Stay in the get going stage anyways, because you're uploading videos once in a while. You're not worrying too much about video quality and audio quality and the production values, edit and stuff. But if you want to be serious, that means you have to treat this like a business. So at this stage, lots of people are saying that if you have a hobby and you turn your hobby into business and you will never have to work a single day till you die, I strongly disagree, by the way. So like let's say you have a hobby and you turn that, let's say you like to play guitar, and you turn this hobby as a professional guitarist, right? Now the things are wildly different, because when you're doing that as a hobby, you see your guitar sitting in your bedroom, you grab the guitar, strum few chords, and you enjoy it, and you put it back and go back to your normal life. So you're treating that as a hobby. But when you are actually trying to be a professional guitarist, things are different. Now that you have a schedule, you have to deal with your finances. Now that you have to deal with your team and lots of other stuff, then it's not fun anymore. When you turn your hobby into business, it's never going to be fun. So you have to like decide things very carefully here. You want to do it casually, or you want to be serious about it. If you want to be serious about it, now that you have to pay attention to get a better video quality, get a better audio quality, and how about your shooting style, like how many cameras you're using and how you're going to rig your camera. So you want that silky smooth floating camera shots and that kind of stuff, so you have to pay attention to that kind of stuff. And if you are doing videos like me, like this, so then you have to pay attention to the camera presence, your voice projection, your gestures, and all of those stuff, and your look and your appearance and everything. Those things matters a lot in this stage. So you have to slowly, incrementally be good at all of those aspects: video quality, audio quality, your shooting style, camera presence, editing, and all the other aspects. Like let's say you are using lots of stop motion, lots of animation, 2D animation, 3D animation in your videos, then you have to be good at all of those things incrementally with the process. Now that you have to allocate some kind of serious time to this one, it's like getting into a relationship. Like let's say you are in a casual relationship, you don't really have much obligation, but now that you're in a serious relationship with content creation, so you have to be slowly good at all of those aspects. Then I told you this thing before. Now that you are at the get good stage, so now that you have to decide whether you are turning this thing into a business or keep that as a hobby. So I'm very serious about this decision. So the channel that you're seeing, the Tech Track Show, I still treat that as a hobby, not like a business. But I have other projects, mostly they are in English. So I treat those things as businesses. Like I have like every day, 6 a.m., 7 a.m. I show up. It's like going to office. Even though like office is my home, I have a separate office in the home. Still, I treat that like a proper job. But the Tech Track Show is still, even at this point, I treat it like a hobby. Yes, it's making money. Yes, it's making significant amount of money. Still, I treat it like a hobby because I want to keep it that way. If I turn that into a business, then I have to show up every day. I have to allocate serious amount of time for it. And when you're doing this kind of stuff, most of the time, 99% of the time, it's taking the fun out of it. I'd like to keep it fun. So even today, it's a hobby. Anyways, so now that you're running a business, when you're running a business, you have to be smart. So this would be the third stage. So now that you have to pay attention to workflows, what are the workflows, what kind of responsibilities, and what kind of people are handling each and every step. So sometimes you have to outsource things. When you are doing stuff, like when I'm doing stuff, I'd like to outsource almost everything. So you can't outsource everything, but almost everything. To outsource things, you should have solid workflows, and those things should be documented, and you should have dashboards, collaboration systems. You have to pay attention to all of those things. Then the most important thing. So now that you have decided, you upload your first video, you upload your first piece of content, let's say, then you decided to be serious about this, then you are allocating significant amount of time for this one. Then you decided to turn this thing into a business. Then you have workflows and you're serious about this thing, like going to a job. Then you have to make money. You have to make profit actually. So without profit, anything would fail, anything would collapse into itself. Because most of the time, like Sri Lankan people, including me, we don't really pay much attention to money because money is a serious instrument. Without that, you can't sustain anything. So one of my friend once told me this story. So 1996 World Cup, if you remember, Sanath Jayasuriya and Kaluvitarana, they invent a new cricket style. So they were playing over the field, targeting sixes and fours in the first 15 overs back in the days, in the first power play. Then we couldn't turn that cricket style into profits, but India did with IPL. So monetization plays a huge role when it comes to sustainability of this kind of project. So people, when you are trying to monetize something, try all the possible channels. If you have a YouTube channel, you have Google AdSense anyways, use it. Then sometimes you can join with MCNs, cool, no problem. But most of the time, for people like me, their usages are minimum. But sometimes when it comes to revenue collection, could be useful. I'm not in any kind of MCN even to date. But sometimes if you are creating music, could be important. Then you can have sponsorship, brand deals. Then when it comes to monetization in my channel, I have sponsored spots, sponsored integrations. And every time you try to monetize your content, you have to accept some kind of damage, right? So your audience is not going to be like welcome all sorts of monetization. So you have to find this sweet balance between monetization, because you are getting monetization because of the audience, and because of the monetization you are losing some of your audience. So you have to find this little balance between those things. But do monetization aggressively, make profit, otherwise you can't sustain this. You will do it for some time but not for very long. So that's one. Then scale means what's your next content format. Now that you have one content format, you should try the next content format. And now that you have one YouTube channel, where is your next YouTube channel? But before you come to this one, you should make profit from the first one. If you have a website and that website is making profit and all the expenses are covered, and you can get some money out of it, you get that money out of it and invest on the next project. So that's what we call scale. So you should pay attention to this one. But before you do that, you have to start the thing and get it going and get smart and monetize it, and then you have to come to the scaling stage. So this is the whole process. Actually, I talk most of this stuff in the last year too, but I still covered it because it's important. Because today I'm going to emphasize on how to use artificial intelligence into your workflow. So now that you understand that at a certain point you should have a workflow, and at a certain point you should outsource your work. So that's where the AI comes in. So integrating AI. So why AI? That's the biggest question, right? So I told you at a certain point when you're creating content, you have to get smart. You have to be smart, and you have to set up workflows, and you have to increase the efficiency, and you have to increase the speed. And sometimes you are creating a masterpiece once a month, and there's another person, he's creating a masterpiece once a year, and you're 12 times faster. And if you can create a masterpiece once a week, then you're 4 times faster than the person who's creating masterpiece once a month. So yes, in internet, quality is important, but the quantity is way more important based on my experience. So if you can put out so much content out there, then you're increasing the possibility to connect with the audience and gain more views. So to increase the quantity, you have to set up workflows, and you have to improve the speed of those workflows, and you have to outsource those things, outsource almost everything. That's where the AI comes in. So first thing, generative text. I've been using generative text tools since 2020, maybe 2019. Back then, those tools were not very good. You can actually generate some kind of content outline using those tools, but not the entire content. But now that we have much more advanced tools, like we have back in the days, we had GPT-2 engine, DaVinci 2 engine, as I remember, and OpenAI, they didn't have their own tool. So there were third-party tools like Writersonic, Jasper. Now that the OpenAI, they got their own tool, ChatGPT, and their latest engine is integrated into ChatGPT, which is a pretty good deal, and it's free. If you want the upgraded beta model, it's $20, still cheap. Because I remember at a certain point I paid like what, $59 or maybe $89 a month for Jasper. So $20 is a pretty good deal. I'm sorry. So you can use this kind of generative text tools for ideation. That means you are out of ideas to create any kind of new video or new article, but you want to create 10 pieces of articles about, let's say, studio lighting, because I'm surrounded with lighting. I'm a huge fan of studio lighting. So you want to create pieces of content about studio lighting. So you go to ChatGPT and say that I'm a YouTuber. my audience is between 18 and 34, then I want you to give me 10 different ideas to create video about studio lighting. Then you'll get some ideas. I'm not going to say that those are going to be perfect, but that's a good starting point, because when you're creating content, the biggest obstacle that we have to go through is you have this blinking cursor in a blank sheet, and you are looking at this blinking cursor for hours. Sometimes we call that the writer's block, the creator's block. So you can use these generative AI tools to come out of that block. Now that you have 10 ideas, you can say that a seventh idea is crap, I'm going to cut it out. Third idea is good, but that is not good as it is. So I'm going to combine fifth one and the third one and come up with a new idea, so you can start thinking. You can get the snowball rolling. You can create some momentum using this kind of tools. But if you're using new tools like ChatGPT, especially the paid version, then you are getting access to GPT-4, their latest model, which is actually pretty good. Sometimes it's better than me. Even when it comes to writing, it's better than me. And you should learn how to build a relationship with this kind of tools. They're not like, okay, let's say you go to Photoshop and click save, it's gonna get saved, right? It's not that straightforward when you are working with generative AI tools. You have to understand the AI, then the AI is going to understand you. It's going to take some time. We call that prompt engineering. To do that, you should have some kind of background idea about whatever the subject you're using this AI for. Like, let's say I'm using this AI for article writing, let's say. Then I'm going to tell this AI, hey, I want you to generate an article outline. And this outline should follow MECE framework, mutually exclusive, collectively exhaustive framework. So you know that, like, we are using that kind of different styles to generate the article outline. Sometimes we use the inverted pyramid, especially when you're reporting news. So you have to have some kind of conversation with the AI, and it's going to take some time. But you can generate tons of ideas, and you can create the momentum when you're using this kind of stuff. Then you can use these AI to generate social media posts. Lots of people are doing this already, because like, let's say you are using a tool like Buffer, and you are scheduling your Instagram posts throughout the month. Then you need a little post and a little bit of hashtag here and there, and you are planning everything in one day. Then you need to generate some captions, little descriptions, and all of those stuff. You can use generative AI so easily. And when you're doing this kind of stuff, the most important thing, sometimes this kind of generative AI tools give you crappy outputs. Then you should have the capacity to assess these outputs, and you should be able to tell that, okay, this is a good idea, this is bad, and this is good, but if you combine this and this, then you're going to get a great idea. You should have that capacity to assess the whatever the outcome you are getting from generative AI. If you can't assess those outputs, then my recommendation, don't use generative AI, because it's not going to be a Terminator or anything like that, but it's going to be bad for your reputation. Like, let's say you are writing an email using generative text AI tool, like let's say GPT. You're using GPT-4 to write an email, and that email is generated by the AI for you, but still that email represents you. And there's some sentence, let's say, which doesn't represent you. That's going to be bad for you. That's going to be bad for your reputation. That's going to be bad for your business. So if you cannot assess the overall quality of the output, then don't use these tools. But if you can assess the quality, then these tools can improve the efficiency, the overall efficiency of your entire workflow drastically. So use it. So social media post would be one thing. The description is also another thing. Like, let's say you want to write a little image description. So when you are writing a blog article, news article, then you have this image. And for this image, you want to include these 3 key points and write image description. You can save lots of time. You can save lots of time using generative AI tools. I'm doing this every day, by the way. Then keyword research. For the keyword research, I have mixed feelings. So when I'm doing keyword research, most of the time, I'm using a tool like Ahrefs. I'm using a tool like Ahrefs, or if I want to cluster keywords, I'm using this tool called WriterZen, Z-E-N, WriterZen, mostly Ahrefs. But sometimes, like if you're not really worried about the keyword volumes and the keyword difficulty and that kind of mechanical metrics, but instead you want to get some idea about what kind of keywords people are looking for, then you can use actually ChatGPT to create a good topic cluster, to generate some keyword ideas. But if you're really serious about this stuff, like if you want to do this for business, I strongly recommend you to double check that keyword list with a tool like Ahrefs. What are the keyword difficulties? What are the competing websites? And what about the monthly search volume and all of those stuff? But this is a good starting point. You can use generative text tools to create this kind of keyword cluster, especially like when we are creating some kind of articles or maybe videos around a YouTube channel. We pay so much attention to EEAT. That means the experience, the overall experience of the YouTube channel, or maybe the website, mostly the website, or the expertise, trustworthiness, and authority. So you should have, like, you should display your experience about this specific topic and your authority about this specific topic, and you should be trustworthy. So most of the algorithms, most of the content suggestion algorithms are paying attention to EEAT. So we call it E8. So then to build this topical authority, we call this topical authority. Like let's say I'm creating so much content about Starship, like let's say SpaceX, and I'm creating so much content about different projects done by NASA. So I'm building a certain authority around it. And I have done some videos about how to study effectively in my YouTube channel. You probably have seen it. So then I'm building a certain authority around it. Then I did a couple of videos about different political ideologies around the planet, like what does it mean by liberal, what does it mean by socialist, and that kind of stuff, like educational pieces. So then I'm building authority around that too. So, and when you go to YouTube, you can see like lots of people like, okay, this person knows about Instagram. So if you have any kind of question about Instagram, you go to that person. And this person knows about TikTok. If you have any kind of question about TikTok, you go to that person. And let's say you want to sort out some camera settings in your Sony camera, then the person comes to your mind, right? Because that person got that topical authority on social media. So you have to build this topical authority when you're creating content. So keyword research is important for that one. You can use ChatGPT, but I repeat, people, if you're serious about this, you can use a tool like TubeBuddy maybe. Or if you are really serious about it, get a tool like Ahrefs. Check the keyword difficulty. Maybe like the keyword is so difficult to compete, so then you're trying to compete and you will get disappointed eventually. So but you can get some rough idea using ChatGPT. Then the content outline, I use this a lot for years, by the way. So you can create content outline using generative text to speed up the process. I told you before, the biggest problem when you're a content creator, like let's say I want to create these pieces of slides here for this session. So I'm looking at this empty PowerPoint slide, and you have these two boxes. The first one says this is the title, these are the points. I'm looking at this slide for hours sometimes without any kind of idea. But if you can generate some outline using generative text, then you can delete something, you can add something, then you're slowly creating some kind of momentum. So again, speeding up the process. So people, the script generation, this is a tricky part. When you are a YouTuber, when you are doing talking head style YouTube videos like me, especially you are doing that in English, you can generate the entire script using generative AI tools. But again, people, I repeat, if you don't have the capacity to assess the quality of the script generated by these generative AI tools, don't use it, right? Don't use anything blindly. If you can, if that script truly represents you, then you can use it. But I did a couple of experiments with the latest model by OpenAI, GPT-4, and do complete paragraph generation. The output is pretty good, surprisingly good, by the way. GPT-3 and 3.5, yes, the paragraph generation is okay, but it's really good with outline generation. Even GPT-2 was pretty good with outline generation. 3 and 3.5 is amazing with outline generation and content summarization and that kind of stuff. But it's the paragraph generation, 80% good, let's say, maybe 90% good. 3.5, that's the Chat GPT. But GPT-4, sometimes it feels like it's 110% good. It's way better than me sometimes. So you can pay that $20 in the case you won't do some experiments. Pay that $20 and try that for a month. If it's useful and if you're generating money back from the $20, then you can continue to pay. Actually, I got it, and I think it's useful if you are doing lots of writing in different styles. Then, so these AI tools were there for generative image for seriously long time, because I'm pretty sure that lots of you guys have tried DALL-E and Midjourney and that kind of tools because they were there. But now that those things are getting really good, because we had this serious problem with hands, because like fingers are always messed up in this kind of generative AI images. Not the case anymore. Midjourney looks so promising when it comes to faces creation, and you can use this tool for cover and profile photo generation, by the way. So let's say you want to quickly set up lots of Facebook pages, Instagram pages, and you want to keep their style unified across the platforms. Then you can use these tools, DALL-E or maybe Midjourney, to generate cover images, profile photos, and you can stylize already existing photos using this kind of generative AI tools too. So give it a try. And now that most of those tools are paid, but you can use like few times for free. But Midjourney, last time I checked, it was there for free, but now I think it's not free anymore. Anyways, you can generate thumbnails. Of course, you can do experiments. I'll skip to the interesting part, the backdrops. So let's say now that we are in this backdrop, you are seeing this video, and this is a real backdrop, by the way. It's printed and it's there. But let's say we have some simple backdrop and you need to get a really wide shot. So what we usually do is we do a matte painting. So if you're doing VFX, you know what matte painting means. If the camera is fixed, things are a lot easier, by the way. So we can do this kind of stuff with to do this kind of stuff, you should have some serious Photoshop skills, because you have to create the set in Photoshop, then import that to Premiere or whatever the video editing tool and mesh the camera movement. That's how we usually do this kind of matte painting. But now things are a lot easier, because in Photoshop, now that we have generative fill. Generative fill means you expand the image and type something. Okay, I want this to be green grass with couple of trees. Then it generates it, and you can get couple of versions too. And it's pretty good, by the way. It's way better than, like, my Photoshop skills are pretty bad, by the way. This is way better than me, this generative fill. And I got this little video. I'm not gonna play the whole thing so you can see this thing. See, like all of those matte paintings are done in Photoshop using generative fill, which is pretty cool. Like, let's say you don't have like very interesting video set, so you can have a basic video set and do all of those matte paintings in Photoshop. So this would be a classic example. So give it a try. So all you have to do is shoot the footage, then bring the plate means the basic video, to Photoshop, then use generative fill to generate all the elements you need. I'll skip to this part. Oh, here we go. So you can see this creator is shooting this frame, and then he's adding everything else using generative fill in Photoshop. You can do the same thing. But there's a catch, guys. The catch means most of you guys are using Photoshop illegally, I guess. Illegal version doesn't support this feature. So you have to actually get the Adobe CC license. So now that you have a really good reason to legally use Adobe Photoshop, right? Then the generative audio. Right. So I'll ask the production team to enable the audio of this thing if possible. Otherwise, like if not, like drop me a message. I'll share you all of those clips. What does it mean by generative audio? Now that we talk about generative text, it's easy. We have seen letter writing AIs a lot, text writing AIs a lot. Now, if you are using Grammarly, the Grammarlys also support this generative text. And we have seen image generation a lot. But what about audio generation? It's kind of tricky, but by the way, now that there are usable tools, I am using those tools for real production. I'll show you some examples. By the way, I'll ask the production team whether you guys can enable audio here.
Eventually leading to the formation of the sun. Due to higher boiling points closer to the sun, only metals and silicates could exist in solid form.
Pause this for a second. Guys, this voiceover is not a real human being. This is generated using AI. I'm using this tool to do my own production. I'll play this.
Formed the rocky planets Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars. The giant planets Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune.
Right. So this, by the way, this is a presentation done by the company itself, not my own video. You can take a look at the quality of this voiceover. It's pretty good. Actually, it's usable. All right. Okay. Anyways, guys, I'll share all of these videos with you.
4.5 billion years ago, a dense cloud of interstellar.
This generative voiceovers, those tools are also getting pretty good. So sometimes maybe like through streaming, you probably face like the quality difference. But I'll share you all of those clips later on. Drop me a message. So to generate this kind of voiceovers, usually you had to book a studio, you had to get the voice artist, then you had to record everything, you had to clean up everything, you had to master everything. It's a huge process. I have gone through that process multiple times. But now, for English especially, Spanish and French and that kind of languages, they have created voice profiles, and those voice profiles are done by like experienced voice artists, so those are pretty good. And it doesn't sound robotic at all. Like with these tools, so the previous tool I show you is the Murph. If you go to the Murph.ai website, you can see some examples, and there are some tools like Eleven Labs and Revoicer. So you can generate voiceovers, pretty good quality, usable, commercial usable voiceovers using AI. How's this important? So let's say you are doing a YouTube channel, you are running a YouTube channel, and you are producing mini documentaries with lots of 2D vector style animations, something like Cruise Gazard. So I'm pretty sure that you guys are watching this German YouTube channel called Cruise Gazard. Its translation is in a nutshell. So they're using lots of vector style animation and background voiceover. And if you want to generate that kind of background voiceover, you can use these AI tools, Revoicer, Eleven Labs. My favorite is Murph, because Murph is so good. To my ears, it's so good. You can use that kind of stuff, of course. Then, so whole point, people, whole point of doing all of those stuff is to speed up the process. So you can speed up the process. Usually, under normal circumstances, to speed up the process, we outsource these stuff to other people. We assemble a team. But now that you can think like whether you should outsource these stuff to another human being, or you are going to outsource these stuff to artificial being, an AI. So now that you can be smart about your outsourcing and you can improve the speed of your workflows using these stuff. So people, all of those things matters if you're running a business, because every time you are converting time to money, right? Then you are converting your brain capacity to money. Eventually, you have this idea in your head and you want to execute that idea in the fastest possible way, in shortest possible time, by spending lowest amount of money. So here are some ideas, people. So generative text, generative image, and generative audio, because of this generative audio tools, it's opening up tons of possibilities for you guys to start new type of content, like mini documentaries. You can create a if you're really good at 2D animation, 3D animation, and video editing, but you are not really good at voiceovers. Now that you don't really have to pay for a voiceover artist, you can generate your voiceover in a really high quality. So give it a go. So uh, I think I'm pretty sure that you guys have lots of questions about this stuff, because I gave you lots of different ideas in a very abstract level. And if you want to get fine-tuned answers, and that would be the next session. So if you have any questions, please put them forward. And I think we are going for a short break now. So after this one, I'll organize all of your questions and I'll try to answer all of those things in a much more comprehensive manner as much as possible. We'll see. So people, I think I'll hand this over to our production team. We are going for a short break, and after the break, I'll answer all your questions. Hello, guys. I'm back, and the production team actually curated all the questions for me, made my job lot easier. The first question, I'll go straight away to the first question. How important and what are your tips to content creation as a singer and musician? People, if you are creating content as a singer and musician, your world is little complicated because you have to deal with all the copyrights. Because when you're streaming music in YouTube, if you are writing your own songs, then lots of things are easier. But if you want to create cover songs, cover versions, then you have to have a solid understanding about music copyrights, because the music copyrights are pretty much organized in all over the planet except in our country, I guess, because in Sri Lanka things are pretty messy. But in all the platforms like Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music, these copyright systems are pretty much organized. So I'll give you a rough idea. So usually, like when you write a song, you have the lyrics writer and the composer. That actually, that's what we call the publishing right. That's 50-50 for the songwriters. Then you record it and export the audio. We call that the master right. That goes to the producer. So when you are doing a cover song, you are basically doing is you are creating a new master for the original publishing. So you have to get the permission from the original songwriters, lyrics writer, melody composers. It's a complicated process. But in countries like Canada and US, they have pretty systematic processes to get those permissions. In Sri Lanka, it's not the case. So you had to do it manually, but you have to navigate all of those things, the copyright problems. But if you're creating your own music, I have seen lots of creators, they're making their own music, they write their own songs, then you don't really have to worry about lots of things. But when you publish a song, then you have to be careful to protect your copyrights. So all the tools are there in YouTube, and if you want to expand this, and if you want to do this in all the platforms like Apple Music, Deezer, and Spotify, then you will probably have to partner up with a publishing company. There are some publishing companies. You can do a little research, and in the case you want to get my recommendations, drop me a message in Instagram or maybe in my Facebook page. I'll direct you to the right places. So yeah, the biggest problem that you have to go through is this copyright issues. Other than that, the process is pretty identical. The next question, what type of systems processes do you use for scheduling, collaboration, and everything else with your creative journey? All right, That's actually important question, because I told you that like when you're running a business, these workflows, collaborations, and you're working with the team, you have staff, those things are important. I manage all of my project in Notion. It's free, by the way, and it's a comprehensive platform. Like you can configure it the way you want it to be. I love Notion, so I use Notion for all of my projects, including TechTrack, because I'm in TechTrack, like I'm working with myself. I'm the editor most of the time, but sometimes I work with other editors too. I'm the script writer, I'm the presenter, but still I use Notion because I can organize everything in one place. And I'm working with sponsors. I link everything to Notion too. So that's one. And when it comes to the scheduling, personal time management, the most effective way, backed by research, is what we call the time boxing. The time boxing is pretty simple. All you do is you block time slots in your calendar. So like, let's say I have to be here for this production. So I block my calendar for this time, right? So you should do the same for everything else. Like, let's say you have to sit down and write an essay, write an article, write a script for a YouTube video, edit, or anything else. You put that in your calendar, then you block a specific time. With the time, you can be more realistic about this time allocation too. That's what we call time boxing. With the time boxing technique, you can manage your personal time. And if you are working with other people, then you can ask them to sync their calendar. So before you assign a work to them, you can check their calendar and avoid all the conflicts. So mainly I use Notion for workflow management. For the stuff I use Google Calendar. And probably you'll ask me questions like, okay, what kind of platforms I'm using for communication. When I'm setting up a workflow, I try to minimize human to human communication as much as possible. So like, let's say my script is done and it's ready to shoot, I update a parameter in Notion. Then everyone else can see that the script is ready to shoot. Then the shooting is done and the A-roll edit is done, then we have a parameter. So then we don't really have to ask the editor, hey, is the A-roll ready? Is the B-roll ready? We don't really have to ask that kind of questions because everything is updated as a parameter in Notion. So that's how I like to do things. So that's the second question. Then the third question, how do we determine the price to charge when we have opportunity like sponsorship, branding, or anything other opportunity, or take any other deals? Right, that's a serious question, and it's important question. So your pricing should not be like so cheap or so expensive. You have to find that sweet balance. So what I usually do is, what most of the people do is look at the market landscape. So your channel got like, let's say 100,000 subscribers. You look at other creators in your similar category and what kind of pricing they have, and can you charge a little bit more than them? Or you can take a look at the market landscape and get a pretty good idea. Then when you place this pricing, so what I usually do is once in a while, when I'm working with big brands, collaborations, so they probably sometimes, this is a pretty rare occurrence though, sometimes they are telling me that, hey Malinda, we have allocated this much money for this project for you. So that's actually a pretty good indicator. Like, okay, let's say usually I'm charging $500,000 for a sponsored integration, and there is a company who's saying that, okay, we have allocated like 700,000 for you. That means like they have assessed me in a much higher level than I am. So then you can rethink your pricing. Maybe like you have to be careful because you have to respond to the market. If your pricing is too much, nobody would buy it. If your pricing is too cheap, then everybody will buy it, but still you are losing money. So look at the market landscape, look at the others, see what other people are doing, and if you are so confident that you can charge a little higher, give it a go, experiment with it. Right, then any tips to consider when making a video? how we can increase brand awareness. It's a pretty abstract question, but anyway, I'll try to answer. So, first thing, when you're doing video or website or anything, you should have a certain theme. So, if you take a look at the slides I used today, so they are following my YouTube channel's color scheme, right? So, the color scheme, fonts, and all sorts of animations and especially graphics, keep all of those things consistent. And see, like wherever I go, I wear these t-shirts, right? So I don't wear shirts. So I actually didn't do that on purpose, but that's who I am anyways. So when you have a certain consistency, human brain is automatically creating patterns. Sometimes I didn't mean those stuff, but audience is picking up like, okay, you are doing this stuff because of this reason, right? Like sometimes it's not, sometimes it is. So create a theme and keep it consistent, then that'll become your brand identity. Right. Then have you played around with stable verb fusion? Good question. I didn't play enough to give you some kind of idea, but I have played a similar kind of image generation and especially text to video generative tools done by Google, uh, DeepMind, and that kind of people. I don't really think they're ready yet. The text to video, the text to image, it's pretty cool. Text to audio, text to voiceover, it's pretty cool. It's ready. The text to video part is still not ready, but the progress is pretty fast. So probably by next year, we'll get pretty decent tools, text to video tools. And that's going to be pretty cool. So in the case I want to create some kind of B-roll footage, I don't really have to shoot anything. Sometimes like if I can type something, I want this glass and camera panning right. If I can type something and generate this kind of video, it's going to be pretty cool. What are your thoughts on no-code websites and apps? They're opening up lots of possibilities. But the problem is when you're using no-code websites and apps, I am a programmer myself, so I'm not a strong advocate of no-code apps and stuff. The real reason behind these things is when you're generating, like when you're using some kind of visual interface and drag and drop blocks and create something, it works, it's all right. But when you try to scale it, when you try to host it, and when you're trying to sort out the hardware infrastructure, you will run into problems, especially when you're scaling it, because those tools are generating lots of abstract is not the correct word, generic code, and lots of it, and those things are not security and performance optimized. So if you have big plans, if you want to scale the product and integrate lots of other things into the same thing, make sure you have access to source code and you are taking the full responsibility of the source code. But if you want to quickly set up something like, let's say my personal website, I want to go home and set up a personal website for me, then drag and drop few things, set up the website and upload it, no problem. But if you have big plans for the platform and you are planning to, especially if you are planning to integrate lots of things into platform, then don't do this. Take the full responsibility, full ownership of the source code, then whatever the stuff happen, you can fix it, and whatever the new service comes in, you can integrate it. All right, people, those are the questions I got from the session. An interesting question, hats off, people. And this would be the end of this session, the English session. And after a break, we will go to the next session. And thanks a lot, people. Thanks a lot for staying with us and ask these amazing questions. And we'll keep in touch. Thanks a lot.